Somebody turn the lights out. Hey, the wolves are
Welcome back to our Wolf Sister Review channel. How's
Hi.
everybody doing? Hi, I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Minnie.
Today we're going to be talking about a couple different things again. We're excited to be back. So excited for summer. Today Minnie's going to go first. Before we get started, go ahead and remember to like and subscribe down below. Thanks, guys. So, Minnie, what did you watch this last month?
So I watched a show that was an anime again.
TV show,
Yep,
series?
it's a TV show. It only has one season. It is actually found on CrunchyRoll, which if you're not familiar with CrunchyRoll, it's a ton of anime. Ton of different kinds of anime. Sometimes
So
it
the
will have
platform is CrunchyRoll.
Yes.
Okay.
And sometimes they'll have stuff where it's only in English. Sometimes they'll have stuff where it's only in Japanese. I didn't find a lot that was on there that was like sub or dub. But I'm sure I was just looking at the wrong stuff. I'm not new to Crunchyroll, but I also haven't used it as much as I watch animes on Netflix and Hulu. So it's kind of a new platform for me to utilize for animes and things like that. If you have suggestions on how to find like the dubbed or subbed versions when they're not available and there's like some hidden secret, please let me know. As I mentioned previously, I like watching them in Japanese more so than watching them in English. So that's that. But the title of the show that I watched, I actually have to read it because, again, it's another long title.
Another long one.
So this one was called Didn't I Say to Make My Abilities Average in My Next Life? So that's
sounds like a sequel to the first one you watched.
it's a lot. Like, it's a mouthful, just like the other one. I mean, at least the other one had Bofuri that we could kind of reference that and we didn't have to keep saying the whole long title, but this one there's no shortened version of what it's called. It actually started out as a manga. I don't know how to actually pronounce that, but
for those people, those of us who don't know what that means,
for those of you that don't know what that means, it's a comic book. It's a Japanese comic book. So just like a Japanese cartoon is called an anime versus a cartoon, Japanese manga is a comic book that's in Japanese.
Okay.
So right off the bat, there are obviously a lot of characters. The main character is I call her Miley. It sounds like they call her Mill or Millie or something like that, but to me it sounded more like Miley, so that's what I'm going to refer to her as.
Is she your favorite character?
She's the main character, so she's
she's not your favorite.
I mean, she's not. I wouldn't say that I have a favorite of this one. I think they all brought something to the table because they basically create a little guild within themselves.
Okay, so why don't you give a synopsis? What's this whole season about?
The whole series, so there's not a season 2 that I've seen.
Okay.
So it's one season. I think it was 10 to 12 episodes. But the idea behind it is Miley is reincarnated. So she died as like a 19 or 18-year-old in her previous life. She was a very gifted student person in general, very smart, which inevitably alienated herself from the rest of her peers. So in her real life, she really didn't have any friends. She didn't feel like she could make that connection with people because they constantly looked at her like you either see yourself as better than us or what have you, even though that wasn't the case. Well, she died saving the life of a little girl. So the gods, I'm going to call them the gods. I don't know exactly who they were, but they basically, when she died, she appeared in this ancient area and they said, we're going to give you another shot at life. You're going to go to a new world, but magic is huge there. Like there's a lot of magical energy.
Oh, cool. That's where I want to be reincarnated and go to, the magic world.
Right. So then they basically asked her, like, what do you want in this new life? Etc., etc. And she says, I want you to make my abilities average. I want them to be average. Because she didn't want to be gifted again. She didn't want to be in the spotlight. She wanted to just be a normal person that could, you know, have normal friends. Well, this will be a spoiler alert, essentially, but she used the wrong words. Instead, you know, she should have said, make me normal instead of make me average. Because what they did was they thought about the weakest creature in this world versus the strongest creature in this world. And they gave her half. They gave her half the power of the strongest creature in the world, which is a dragon. So they gave her half the power of a dragon, an ancient dragon. Yeah. And so this ended up being, like, the way they explain it, this is 6,800 times stronger than a normal human. So
even at half?
Yes.
Okay.
Even at half. So that's, normal humans don't have that kind of power.
Did they give her any, like, dragon qualities? Like,
no, but so there is, like
a tail or wings?
No, she's just a normal girl. So mind you, she's reincarnated and she's born. So, like, she's born into this new world. When she's 12, she regains all of her memories from her past life.
Okay.
So up until that point, she didn't remember anything about being reincarnated. Well, it's kind of like a Cinderella story. She was born into a very prestigious family, very rich. She's basically a princess. However, her dad remarries because of the mother dying or something of that nature. And the stepmother and her children are very rude to her. They make her clean, etc., etc. Well, the dad is actually on board with it in this scenario, and he sends her away to a school. Basically says, don't tell anybody that you're associated with us or I'll kill you, etc., etc. So that's kind of a little bit of backstory on her. Okay, so they send her to this school. It's basically a private school, not a religious school, just a private school. And she had never had any friends up to this point, so she makes friends. It was kind of a haphazard way of making friends.
How so?
All these boys were, like, giving Miley attention, and she didn't like it. She didn't want to be seen. So, because she's 12, you got to remember that. Like, she doesn't like the boys' attention, and these other girls are thinking that she's doing it on purpose. So they go to, like, lash out at her, and she's just so innocent and so nice, and they're sitting here thinking, like, oh, this is a ploy. Like, we're gonna basically beat her up in a sense, is what the feeling that I got. But then they start looking around her room and they're like, what? Like, what is this? Like, you don't have anything. And they're like, oh, she's lying. She's lying. Because she basically told them her whole life. Like, if I say that I'm a princess, if I admit that I'm a part of this family, I'm going to get killed, or I'm going to, this, that, and the other. And they were like, oh, whatever. She's just trying to make us feel sorry for her. Well, she leaves the room to go get them chairs because she's like, I'm so sorry. I have nothing for you to sit on. Let me go get some chairs, and you guys can sit and hang out with me. And so while she's gone getting chairs, they start looking around her room. They realize that she has very old clothes in her closet. They find, like, half-eaten food in her drawers. And so they begin to think, like, oh my gosh, she's being serious. She's, she has nothing. She has no one. And so they start feeling bad for her. So they end up being her friend because they're like, she really,
sorry for her. Right.
But they're like, she really isn't the person that we thought she was. And so then they all formed this really close friendship.
Okay.
Well, I feel like she kind of knew she had powers previous to this encounter, but they're out and it's like the princess of that entire kingdom is coming to visit. And so there's all these people standing kind of like a parade. They're on both sides of the street while the carriage is coming down the road, whatever. And this little boy falls into the road and she sees it, and the guards are basically telling this boy, get back, and they're coming at him like they're going to kill him because he fell into the road.
Okay.
So she jumps in to protect him, much like her old life, where she was saving a little girl from being killed.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a flashback, but then she lands on top of the boy and basically, with her powers, creates like a force field around them so that nobody can hurt him. Well, they're like, what is this? What is this? And she's like, oh no, I'm caught. Like, something's going to happen. I need to do something. So she decides to pretend like she's a deity. And she transforms, and she has wings, and she's got this really big light around her. And she's like, this is your judgment day. you know, da 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 da, like, you will not do this, you will not do that, or I will come and smite the rest of you. So she's just really like flying by the seat of her pants trying to figure something out, but then everybody saw her, so now she's like, I have to run away. So she does. She runs away and she leaves behind that school.
So is this the preface of the show, or is this...
This is all kind of happening throughout the season. It's showing you some of her back, like some of the past.
So
but
it does flashbacks, but then it shows like what this new life
present
is about.
day, yes.
So what's the overall theme? Like, what is the point? Is it supposed to show how things...
Yeah.
Is this a coming into her own story?
Kind of, yes.
Okay.
So she ends up like in current day without flashbacks. She's going to a hunter school, which is a school for magic that you learn.
So she leaves that other school and decides to find this hunter school?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this is where you become an adventurer. Like you hone in on your powerful skills, whatever your skills are, so that you can be an adventurer and make money through doing adventures and whatever.
Okay.
So she meets these girls kind of while she's waiting for this hunter school to start, and they all end up going together. It's kind of just like it's kind of like foreshadowing that they're all going to be friends, because she runs into them each individually in different settings, but then they're all there at the school. Well, the thing is most humans only have one ability. So the names
in this realm or this world, they only have one ability.
Yes. So the names of the characters that she meets are, there's Mavis, who is a knight. There is Reina, who is a mage, and Pauline, who's a healer, right? So those are the individual girls that she meets. Well, they end up becoming friends, right? Okay. But they only have the one ability. So Mavis is being a knight, so she's strength, she's got armor, she, you know, wields a sword, etc. Reina is a mage and she's a fire mage. So fire is her specialty when they all meet. Now, along the way she learns other types of elemental magic, but we'll go into that in a minute.
I'm getting a vibe of what show that we already did a review for. Just from what you're saying, I'm getting a vibe of that one show we watched where the girl is looking for the stag.
Yeah. Yeah. Shadow and Bone.
Shadow and Bone. Yes. I'm getting a Shadow and Bone vibe here.
Yeah. So they all, you know, that's normal. Now, Miley has every type of magic because she is special. She's reincarnated and she was given all these gifts. She goes to hunter school and she's like, I don't want to stick out. I don't want people to know how powerful I am, so I'm just going to copy what everybody else is doing. Fails miserably, right? Fails miserably. People are like, how the hell can she do all of this stuff as she's being tested and what have you?
Yeah.
Well, these girls confront her similarly to how she was being confronted at the prestigious school. And they're like, how do you know how to do that? How are you only 12 and you know how to do all of this stuff? Like, how is this? And she's all, secret family technique. Because she doesn't know what else to tell them. She knows she's not allowed to tell people she's been reincarnated. But she's also not telling them who she really is because she's afraid of being found and being killed. So she's only giving them as much information as she feels she needs to, but throughout the whole show, they consistently ask, like, how is it that you know this? How is it that you're doing this? Well, along the way, at some point in the show, she does tell them as much as she can tell them. She basically tells them everything minus the reincarnation. So they are like, okay, we understand, blah, blah, blah. So now when other people start to ask her, how are you this powerful and you're only 12 years old? The rest of the girls stand up for her and they're like, it's a secret family technique, because they understand and they're trying to help protect her. It's really cute, but throughout the whole thing, because Miley's so powerful, she doesn't really have to train. She just does, and it works. But these other girls are normal humans, and so they...
Sounds very shiny.
They need to train. So Miley takes it on herself. And it's funny because she does the whole wax on, wax off, Mr. Miyagi. She's taking a lot of stuff from like TV shows from her time and from where she came from to teach them how to use and how to focus and like whatever. So she basically becomes their master and is teaching them how to become stronger. And that's essentially what she does. She builds up these 3 other girls to make them stronger.
Okay.
And they do, they move in together, they create a guild together. All these different guilds want them when they graduate from the hunter place. But they all decided, no, we need to stick together. We're better together. So they come up with, I think, the Crimson Force or the Crimson something is what they call themselves.
Cool.
And so they travel, they go and they live together. They're all best friends. They get along really well. And it just shows them going on adventures and making money, and then like how they celebrate once they've made money, and how all of this different stuff. And like it kind of, it really goes into each of them and their backgrounds and where they came from and how they got to where they are now. But the thing to keep in mind is that Miley and Reina are the youngest. They're both 12. Pauline is 14 and Mavis is 17. So they're all fairly young. But like they're off doing these adventures that are for like veteran adventurers. So things that they shouldn't even be doing. They should be doing like little things where it's like, go collect this and do this for me and do this and that. But they're taking on these huge adventures to get huge amounts of money because they are like, they know they have Miley, and Miley is very powerful, and she's training them to be more powerful as well. So without giving away too much, I don't want to give away the ending because I want everybody to want to watch it, and you should go watch this because the ending is so good. But
so don't tell us.
Yeah, so I'm not going to tell you anything about how it ends. That's literally just the summary of the show and what you can expect. But there is one thing that this was probably my favorite part of the whole show, and it was when Miley, in her world prior to this one, they went to the beach, and she never got to go to the beach with her friends. So she creates all these bathing suits and all these like beach lounging chairs and the umbrellas and the toys and all of that. She creates it all so that the girls will go with her to the beach. Well, they get to the beach. They're in the swimming suits that she made for them, and they're all just standing there like, we feel so awkward. Like, what are we doing? And she's like, well, I did this where I used to live, and it was normal and it was fun. And so now we just go splash around in the water, and we giggle and we laugh, and that's what we're supposed to do. So the girls, very like suspicious of this behavior, they're like, okay, well, if she says that this is something that people do, we'll do it. So they all start doing this, and they're playing, they're having a great time in the water. Well, then all of the townsfolk show up at the beach, and they're all staring at them, and they basically are like, what are all these little girls doing half naked at the beach? Because in this world, that is not a thing.
Oh.
So all of the girls get highly embarrassed because they are half naked.
And did they get half naked because of Millie? Because she thought that was normal?
Yes, because she's thinking like these are bathing suits, but in that world, bathing suits don't exist. That's not a thing.
Oh.
So all of these people that are from the area are like, you're half naked. Why are these little girls running around in their underwear out here? Like, this isn't normal. So they all get embarrassed, and they grab all their stuff, and they run home as fast as they can. And on the way home, Miley's like, I'm sorry, and where I'm from, this is normal, and this is okay. And the girls are like, I can't believe that you made us do this, and like, blah, blah, blah. So I was laughing pretty hard.
Hey,
it was
you
funny.
did it, and you went along with it, okay?
Right? But overall, like, yeah, I would watch it again. I thought there was a lot of funny stuff in it.
What about compared to the last anime? Would you say this one was, you found this one more exciting and you'd like to watch it again?
I would say Bo Fury still wins out this one.
Oh.
Because Bo Fury had more of like, it just had a different feel to it.
This one sounds like it's more my jam though than Bo Fury was.
And this one kind of moved a little bit slower, and like there were still a lot of funny parts, but there was a lot of stuff that you didn't know yet, and so you really had to keep watching to get to that information, which was fine, and I liked the way that they unfolded everything, but it still was not, to me, as good, but I still really, really liked it.
Well, I would watch it again. I'll admit that I didn't watch Bo Fury. I wasn't inclined to watch it based on our conversation last time, but this one sounds more my jam. I mean, anime is hard for me because just the way it moves and everything, and it's like, I like animated series, I love Disney, love all the different stuff, but something about the way anime moves is hard, is hard for me. Yeah. And so it'd really have to be something that I guess I would need the time and because I'd have to make the effort to put in to understand what was going on.
What about you? What did you watch?
Well, before we move on to mine, I want to know, did you watch How I Met Your Father?
I did. And I was not impressed. I mean, it was good. It was good to see Hilary Duff in something new and like
Yeah.
not, I haven't seen her in a while. I know you said that she was in that other show,
Mm-hmm.
but I never saw that. So this was the first time I've seen her really since like the Lizzie McGuire stuff. It was good to see her, but I feel like her acting has gotten worse from not.
I'm telling you, it wasn't her acting. It's the script. It's the
You
writing.
think so? Okay.
Because if you watch Younger, and maybe I'll do a review of Younger next time, folks, but if you watch Younger,
she does a good job.
She does a great job, and
Okay.
Younger is great. So
Yeah.
I really think it's just the script and stuff. It's not her skills or anything.
I felt like it moved really fast, and I didn't get it, like kind of like you said, I didn't get enough time to really connect with any of the characters. And then that whole who was it? The English guy and the girl. That whole
Valentina.
thing. Yeah. Like that whole thing. I realized like what you were talking about, how it moved so fast, but all she did was made a remark about like wanting children someday. Not that she wanted them right then and there, but she was saying like when we're, this is what I want for us, and like one day we could do this with our kids, and one day like this. And he got freaked out that she mentioned kids. And so then it was him being like, I never want kids. You can't make me want kids. And she was like, you don't ever want them? Like, and that was where that came from in my perspective. Like, he was overreacting, but at the same time, like,
but then she in turn overreacted and was like, okay, I guess it's over.
Well, I don't think she overreacted. It was definitely like, if we can't see eye to eye on this, why would we continue to date if neither of us are going to change our mind?
But neither of them cared to talk about any deep,
right,
serious issues, their whole relationship. Yeah. So they could have done that with anything, whether it was kids or where do you want to live?
Right.
For example, they could have been like, where do you want to live? And he's like, well, we're going to go back to England.
Right.
Because neither of them were ever really talking about the shit that meant something.
Right.
They just kept showing their relationship like it was just this fun, flingish type thing. But then they'd have these moments where they were like really connected and were like, I love you. I'm like, well, is this like love, or is this like, there's like love having you around? Like,
yeah.
So, anywho, well, did you see Robin? Did you see Robin come back? Mm-hmm. Did you like that part?
Yeah. And I did get the reference to the pineapple that you were talking about.
Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that was the pineapple?
I do.
I can't believe it took like how many years
he
until we got that answer?
Says it. He even says it somewhere in there that there was this one time when somebody stole a pineapple off my porch. He says it in the actual episode. He says, this reminds me of the one time when somebody, or like, this is worse than the time that somebody stole my pineapple off my porch.
So they did.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
They did connect that.
It took that long to get that little question answered.
Yeah.
I loved it though. Awesome. Guys, I'm so excited to talk to you about what I watched. Before I tell you what it is, I have to share some feelings because I didn't want to watch this show at first. And I saw chatter about it online. I saw people's opinions. I mean, I even think that on a dating app, don't judge me, don't come at me. On a dating app, I saw somebody say that their life was this show. And so I thought, well, wow, if somebody like is that serious about this show that it's like their life, then I think I need to see this. Yeah. So I started it, and then I couldn't watch the last season because I was bored by then because I was so heartbroken. And I'm going to give you a few hints and see if maybe some people can guess what it is. I compare it to Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad, however, is a story about, a regular Joe who basically gets his head deep in making drugs and distributing drugs and then trying to become the kingpin and get, becoming rich. So rags to riches kind of thing. This show is about, they start out, they live pretty decent. They've got money. They don't got to hustle. They don't got to do this. But then they get into this situation. And what they do with it is just insane. And if you know the show, like, you know what I'm talking about. It's about a family. The difference between that Breaking Bad and this one is the whole family's in on it, not just like Walter going out like
I think I know
on
which one
his
you're talking about.
own, trying to do it on his own and like hiding it from everybody.
Do I get to guess?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Well, no, you keep going, and then I'll
Okay.
guess.
It takes place in a specific place. Like wherever that took place when the show started, they go to the specific place is to do this because the jurisdiction and the laws in this particular place are very lax, and it's very hard to enforce certain ones, or like they can't extradite from this particular place. So if you were to go be doing what these guys are doing, because I'll tell you what they're doing here in a minute, then that would be the perfect place to go do it. It's on the water, and it's kind of like it's in between a few states. It takes place like somewhere in Missouri, but they're like on the Missouri River, or Missouri, is it a lake? So it's right next to like other states, and it kind of like travels from other states, like, because, it's a lake and it's a river, whatever. It's got some really well-known actors in it that you haven't seen in a role like this before. I like comparing it to Breaking Bad because Breaking Bad was phenomenal. And the acting, and the work that these actors did was so great. And like, this is just top notch, just like Breaking Bad was. Let me see if I have any other hints I could give. No, anything else would just give it away. Do you have any guesses?
I have a guess. I only have one guess.
Oh.
So if my one guess is wrong, then I'm wrong. But
I wonder if anybody else is commenting guesses at this point, or if I haven't even given enough information for them to have any good guesses.
Yeah. So I'm thinking it's that show called Ozark.
Yes, it is. It's Ozarks.
Ozarks.
Okay. Yes, and
is that their name? Like, is that
no,
the family name?
No. Oh. It's called Ozarks because that's the place where they go, where it takes place, is the Ozarks.
Okay.
So I thought it was this dystopian thing. And I thought, I'm not sure if I'm in the mood for like this dystopian where, it's an I think of end of the world type of thing, because why else would humanity sucks? We all know that, but why would it get any worse unless the world was ending, and it brought out the worst in everyone. So I wasn't sure if I really wanted to watch a show like that. And I thought, sometime I'll have to give it a try when I'm in the mood for that kind of a dark thing. Well, it wasn't like that. Yes, I was left feeling dark, horrified, sad, disappointed. Just, it did leave like this deep, dark feeling in my gut, but when I finished the series, and I kind of carried with me for a few days. I couldn't.
But I thought you said you didn't watch the last episode or the last season.
I did because I had to know what happened.
Oh,
because Jason
you didn't
Bateman.
Want to.
Jason Bateman. We have like this amazing lineup cast. Jason Bateman, Laura Linney. Enough said right there. The rest of the cast is still phenomenal, but these two are our main characters. The family is Marty, Wendy, their kids Charlotte and Jonah. The other main character is Ruth, and she's got a couple cousins and her family there. So I'm not going to name everybody, but
right.
So Ruth Langmore is her name, and so it's the Langmore family that already lives at the Ozarks and has lived there for many generations.
Okay.
Their families live there for many generations. They live in a trailer park. Well, and like I said, this family, Marty's family, Jason Bateman's family, they already had money. He's an accountant. This man is amazing with numbers. He's a freaking genius. And so they already had money. They lived pretty nicely. But season 1, I watched all 4 seasons and this month. Jeez. And
that's a lot.
There's 10 episodes a season, except for the first and last season. I think they have a few extra. Mm. The first season is about, you find out how they got into this business. They got into it because they were basically bored with their life, and not so much bored, but his wife was going through some mental health issues, and they don't really tell you what it was exactly. They kind of foreshadowed some of it, but she was going through some mental health issues and couldn't really figure out the purpose of her life anymore. Mm. And he was just like, he was bored with the same old, like, bring clients in, handle their retirement funds. That was kind of like his niche, was just like handling the accounting for big firms and handling their retirement money and moving money around. And he was just kind of sick of that. Well, he had this partner, Bruce, who was a big, like, sales guy, right? So between the two of them, they were just like this dynamic duo team. And Bruce brought in all the clients and Marty handled all the money. Well, you find out how this all began was because Bruce got them into some trouble and Marty didn't know about it, but Bruce got him into this trouble. But then meanwhile, this, Wendy's going through these struggles. Well, so they ultimately get presented with this scenario, and I'm not going to tell you what it is because you got to go watch it. But they get presented with this scenario, and both of them are just like, I don't know, this is serious. And we've got 2 kids. They're young. Jonah was like, I think 8 when the series began, 8 or 9. And Charlotte was a few years older than that. And I think she was a teenager. I think she might have been in high school or like maybe 9th grade or so. So they've got, kids. And they were just like, they were weighing all the pros and cons. You see them going through this together. But ultimately, like, Marty's just like, well, might as well see what kind of comes of it. Like, as long as we're in this together. So I was immediately impressed with the fact that, okay, in the beginning of the show, you wonder, like, it makes it look like that Bruce got him into this. Right. And then Marty's the one that went along with it eventually. But no, like, they got pulled into it and they knew what they were getting pulled into. So it wasn't like Marty was totally like oblivious the whole time, but they make you wonder if he was oblivious this whole time because Bruce is the go-to guy. So I was impressed, and I loved that once you found that out about their relationship, that they agreed and were in it together. Like, let's see. And so season 1 is all about them literally fighting for survival every single day because the big guy in charge realizes that Bruce has been stealing money. Bruce has been helping all these people steal money from the guy in charge. So like, the guy just comes down on them hard. You gotta watch what I mean by hard.
Is this a drug dealer?
Mm-hmm.
Like the top guy that you're talking about? And so Bruce has been doing this longer than Marty.
Well, he's been doing it only in the fact that Marty didn't know about it for a certain number of years. Right. But Bruce has been doing it for a while.
Right. So does Marty get pulled into what's happening with Bruce because of like guilty by association? Is that how they're in survival mode?
Yes, that's why they're in survival mode, is because he gets pulled in. Yeah, exactly. Guilty by association.
Got it.
And so Marty is in a scramble. Like, I just got to figure out what to say to survive. Because, I mean, he's next. The gun's coming for him. And he's just watching everybody die. So he knows. So he's got to come up with something. So he basically pulls out the best he can think and promises to this outrageous number and says, I can get you this much money in this amount of time. I can do it. Mm-hmm. So that saves his life. And he takes where he decides to go is where Bruce was suggesting they go next to try to find some new clients. But Marty's like, that's the only thing Marty can come up with. He had this pamphlet in his hand that Bruce had given him and was like, we need to go here next. And so he decides he's going to go there. And that's the Ozarks. So they head to the Ozarks, and literally day by day, the show just moves at like a day by day pace. Is like they're just trying to survive day by day, not be killed.
Got it.
Got to find businesses to launder money through. Got to find businesses, to buy so that I can run a daily business and fudge the numbers and get this money laundering through this, right? Jason Bateman is phenomenal in this. You see the fear every second, every moment, but you also see the wheels turning. Like, he knows he's got to figure something out. So he's just moving from one thing to the next. Well, his wife, because like I said, they want you to think that she doesn't really know what's going on. So for a long part of the first season, you're wondering, like, she must be fucking terrified because she just found out that, like, she just found a little bit about what's going on, at least so you think.
Yeah.
So he's literally just dragging his family, convince them that, like, it's time to move. We need to go somewhere else. Meanwhile, he's trying to make sure their paper trail stays clear so that they still don't look dirty and nothing like leads to them. And this man is a genius. You have to watch this. So the whole first season was just phenomenal. So it kind of comes to a head at the end of season 1, and you're like, oh my God, like, are they going to survive? Mm-hmm. Enter season 2, and they have found a way to stay alive. They've found a way to become a little bit more valuable to the guy in charge. And Wendy starts to get involved with everything that's going on. Wendy kind of pulls herself out of this freaked out place and she decides, like, I need to help. I need to help us survive here. I can't remember if she finds him a house in season 1 or towards the end of season 1. I think it's season 1, but they really just start like making a life at this house in the Ozarks. And she starts helping, trying to find businesses to buy. She's trying to help find ways to launder money. So she starts getting a taste of what this world is like. And so you get to watch, these characters unfold, right? And grow in this. I mean, like Walter did from Breaking Bad. He has to decide. He has to make these constant decisions of like, what do I do? Do I make this decision for survival? Do I have to make it for the long run? Well, Marty is in this from day one. Marty is just in this to get out. He realizes the choice that he made was not the one he wishes he made. He regrets having got involved in this. So right from the second, Marty's just like, we need to do this just to survive right now. And then the next day, we need to do this just to survive. Marty is only doing what is required of him to survive. But Wendy, as soon as Wendy gets involved, Wendy's like, oh, this is kind of fun. I'm kind of good at this. Oh. So she starts doing some stuff on her own.
Without Marty knowing, or?
They still talk about everything at this point, but they're coming together and they're talking about it. And she's like, we had no choice. Like you said, we had to make these decisions. You weren't around. I had to do something to make sure we didn't lose this money or to do this. So in the beginning, they're in it together and she's just like trying to help Marty to make sure to, protect the family because she sees how hard Marty's trying and it's just so much. And so by season 3, enter her brother, Ben. And I fell in love with this guy. I don't know the actor's name. I didn't look his up to make sure I got it right. But her brother, Ben, they introduced him in such an epic way. You have to watch it. And I was like, oh my God, I love this guy. Well, it turns out, you don't know it's her brother at first when they're introducing him and you see him and then he comes into play. Well, they quickly identify that he has mental health issues similar to, his sister. And again, you don't know quite what they are, but eventually they tell you and you see the story of what that is. So he's this wild card. They're in the middle of this basically fight for their lives, and then this wild card gets thrown in. And it's like, well, we can't have a wild card because we're already like fighting for our life every day. Literally, there's people coming to our house with guns and shooting at us, and then we're barely surviving or barely getting off scot-free by something or other, by our critical, using our critical thinking skills and figuring things out and playing it smart. And now here's my brother who wants to see us and wants to come visit, wants to see what's going on in our life and needs a place to crash, but he's too big of a wild card. He's going to figure out what's going on and he's going to start asking questions, and that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. So wait, hold please. The kids. You said that they're, like, in the beginning when you were talking about, you said they were involved in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Are they involved, like, when do they get involved? Season 1? Or?
Well, they're involved in the way that they know. It starts out where they try to keep it a secret from them entirely. But their kids, it's like the kids are just as smart as their parents. And you start to realize this, right? So it takes them longer to figure out everything that's going on. But they know something's up. They know that it's not right. They know that it's illegal. They start figuring these things out. And so it's not that they're involved, they're fully involved by season 3, I would say. And the last season, in season 4, they're definitely fully involved. But they're involved in the way that they just know. In season 2, they're just involved in the way that they know what's going on. They know the truth of the matter. And their parents aren't keeping everything from them. Right. Their parents feel like they're doing the healthy thing by at least telling them the basics of what's up. So they know why they need to protect themselves. So they know why they need to keep what's going on around the house a secret. Why they can't make friends. Why they can't do this because they got to protect the family.
Right.
So they know just enough
to suck.
Oh yeah.
Kids can't have friends.
The kid's life was really difficult.
I imagine.
And by season 4, that all kind of culminates. And season 3 and 4 is when things happen with Ben. That whole storyline is why it really stopped me from wanting to watch the last season, because the storyline with Ben and how that unfolded, you have to watch. I can't give it away. It's too dang good. You have to see what happens. I was so emotionally shook by this. It took me a couple days to continue watching after watching what happened. And then still, I think I was still in denial. I still was in denial of how things went down and how and like how they left their relationship. But I wanted it to believe it didn't really happen that way. Like I was waiting for them to show that like that was a dream or something, and then they really worked things out or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was in denial for a long time. So I had to watch season 4 to see how it ended. Here's some things. It culminates everything. So, okay, they only needed 4 seasons because everything comes to a head, right? And the way that the show ends leaves you wondering if they have any morality left at all. Okay. When the whole show, I was stuck with Marty and love Marty, even with the mistakes he made, because his moral compass was so set at, it's one thing to launder money from people, but it's another to kill them. It's another to hurt them. It's another to do this to them. He had a line that he would not cross.
But he crosses it?
Not necessarily, but he definitely turns his head. He definitely puts his head in the sand because his wife is the one doing this shit.
Oh.
And you're questioning the whole time because you'll know why. You have to watch it because there's some things that were going on. There was already trouble in the marriage.
Okay.
So then for him for 3 seasons, for however many years, for him to be fighting so hard to get them free, which by the end of season 2, he was prepared. He had paid people off. He had got them new identities. He had got things fixed so where they could escape.
Yeah.
And they could go to another country and start over and escape from this whole mess. Right. And everything Marty had been doing was leading up to that moment, was leading up to that time. And meanwhile, you're like gung-ho with him, like you're waiting for this to happen because you're like, yes, please save your family and get out of this.
Yeah.
But then she's the one that makes choices that gets them stuck in this life and gets them reeled back in. So you wonder, like, how the heck could they continue to stay together, right? Because the show's been moving so fast and it's been all about survival.
Yeah.
So they haven't separated or really addressed their relationship because there hasn't been any time.
Right.
But then because she gets them stuck there, they have time to address the relationship.
Yeah.
So they start addressing it and all they're doing is fighting and screaming at each other and things aren't going well at all. Yeah. So you're still wondering, like, okay, so Marty's kind of going out doing his own thing. She's doing her own thing. Like, are they about to separate? Mm-hmm. Because she is like full on, like, I mean, she's even grown a crush on like the head of the cartel. Like she's
becoming not a great person.
Yes. Like, and she's being like, she's getting drunk on all this power.
Ugh. So to go back at what you said at the very beginning, you said somebody on a dating app mentioned
said their life is Ozarks, and I'm thinking, so now after I've seen Ozarks and I finished it, I went right back to that thought of that person's comment, and I'm like, your life is Ozarks.
Is it their life or is it their relationship life, like where they're dating the wrong women and the women, they have to clean up after the women because the women are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs? Like, is that, like, I'm trying to figure out the analogy because I haven't seen the show like you have. So I'm like,
I don't know, because now I'm wondering, like, what do you mean your life is the Ozarks?
Yeah, like, are they saying that they are drug dealers? Or like, are they saying that, like,
their relationship is like this power couple maybe or something? Like, that's what he imagines his life being. Part of me wants to rewatch it, but like, I really got the urge to watch Breaking Bad when I was watching it too, because I wanted to see that story of Walter like all over again.
Well, I mean, it sounds interesting, and I mean, you're not the first person that's watched it, and not necessarily, you're not necessarily telling me, right, to watch it, but I've had a lot of other people watch it and they've told me, like, you have to watch this, and I was like,
you have,
it just doesn't look good. Like,
it didn't.
I'm looking
to me
at
either,
it, and it's
but
just, I read the description and I was like,
if you like the exciting, if you're looking for something it's exciting, that you're like, you have to watch the next episode to see how it goes. If you're looking for some relationships that are really tough and really strong, though, it's great. But then there's one character that I mentioned a little bit ago that I have to tell you about now because she's so important. This relationship, her name is Ruth Langmore.
Okay.
And she's lived at the Ozarks all of her life. She has grown up with an abusive family from her uncles, her father, who's been in prison, and he like controls the family from prison. And she's like his errand girl. and she's got a mouth on her. She's this little tiny little thing.
How old
But
is she? Like,
they don't really tell us, but get the vibe that she's maybe 13, 14
okay, so
when
she's
it
a
starts.
teenager.
She's a teenager, and you watch her build this relationship with Marty. And then in the beginning, she wants to kill him. I mean, she's instantly
Right,
trying
but
to
is
figure out a way to kill him.
it's not a romantic
No,
thing, right?
no.
Okay, good.
In fact, that's what I'm so disappointed in how her story played out, because she builds this empire on her own because of this relationship she builds with Marty, that she's like a daughter to him. And he
Okay.
never in the show admits that she's like a daughter to him, but he treats her and protects her like his daughter Charlotte. Like, it's
Okay.
she's a member of the family. And Ruth grows to love him and protect him over her own father.
Ooh.
And so to watch this evolve and watch this relationship grow, because this little feisty little girl, she gets smart real fast. She's got street smarts. And as soon as Marty comes in the picture and starts showing her how to do some of these things, she just starts building this enterprise on her own. And when she was like 15, he handed her over half the kingdom and was like, "Can you take care of all this?" And so not only is he building this relationship with her, but she's finally gaining this confidence, like, oh my God, there's somebody that actually believes that I can do this. And Marty's the only one in our life that believes she's worth anything and that can do these things.
Got it.
And so you watch her just bloom,
Yeah.
but she's also a badass and has a mouth on her that gets her in trouble a lot. But this relationship with Marty that she has, and she's got these cousins, and the characters I've mentioned so far were my favorite, right? Like, well, Marty and Wendy, but Ruth Langmore is my favorite, and her cousin Wyatt, because Wyatt was a genius, so smart, but they all lived in this trailer park, and none of them have ever been able to go to college, and all the men end up in prison, and it's basically just a really sad tale about all the Langmores, right? So Ruth starts making this positive change in her life and making a name for herself, and she wants to make sure that Wyatt can go to college, that Wyatt can have education, and she kind of takes Wyatt, even though they're only a couple years apart. She wants to make sure that Wyatt can be, get out of it.
Is Wyatt older than her?
I don't, I think he's a little bit younger. And now that I think about it, they don't actually say her age, but there is a point where she gets custody or some sort of legal custody over Wyatt.
Oh.
So she's got to be at least 18 at some point in the show.
Right.
But there's so many jokes and so many comments that goes around it, like that she's 15, that I never really knew how old she was, but she has to be at least 18, right? But when they were in the Ozarks where the laws were different, so she could have been a bit younger and still been his legal guardian.
Right.
So it's pretty intense. Like, it's an adventure. It's intense. I think you'd like it. I mean, did you like Breaking Bad? Have you watched Breaking Bad?
Never seen Breaking
Oh
Bad.
my God. Guys, come after her. She hasn't seen Breaking Bad.
It just wasn't my thing. Like, I've seen Prison Break, and even that was hard for me to continue. Like,
I haven't seen Prison Break.
Prison Break was great for a time. I wouldn't even say that it's like Breaking Bad. I'm just saying, like, suspenseful stuff where it's like one day, every day is a new fucking shit show, essentially.
I just can't believe that
that's what Breaking Bad, or that's not Breaking Bad. That's what Prison Break was to me, was like, oh, here we go again. Here's more just drama and garbage. But
I can't believe you haven't seen Breaking Bad.
It just didn't seem,
You like Game of Thrones. I mean, granted, Game of Thrones is like fantastic, like fantasy, but still like the same kind of like adventure and pressure and like excitement. Yeah. You gotta watch oh my God, you have to watch Breaking Bad. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I want to know what you guys, I mean, for example, the guy that I saw on the dating app that said this is his life, what do you think he meant by that?
Right.
Like, I want your opinions. And I want you guys to send messages to her to tell her to watch Breaking Bad with me. We'll just watch Breaking Bad like a couple episodes. Well, maybe just an episode a week or something. A couple episodes.
It's gonna take me at least 2 episodes to get into it. If I watch 2 episodes and I'm not interested, I will not watch the rest of it.
Well, then we gotta watch it together. Okay. And I'll just tell you enough so that yeah, we gotta watch it. You're gonna like it. You don't know what you're missing.
Maybe.
Have you watched any? So you haven't watched any of the Ozarks either? Yeah, once you watch Breaking Bad, then you're gonna be like, okay, now I gotta watch Ozarks because Ozarks, the dad is the money launderer, not the guy who's making the drugs, right? Marty. Oh, and the name Marty. Who doesn't love the name Marty? I mean, if you're a Back to the Future fan, it's like like Marty is like the coolest name, and I haven't really heard it anywhere else. And then
It's not very.
it's not
used.
common. I mean, Back to the Future, and then now this, and it's Jason Bateman. Like, oh, Marty was just such a great name that I was like, made me rethink like best names out there. But anywho, that's all I have to share for now. If anybody wants to talk more about the Ozarks, I'd love to get, drop us a message or a comment, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about Ozarks and what you thought. I mean, how it compares to Breaking Bad, or maybe you guys know some other shows out there that are similar.
Yeah.
To Breaking Bad or the Ozarks, and give me some recommendations. Like, they're really hard for me to get into, similar to how she says, but once I've got them started and I'm hooked, then I have to know, like, I have to see it through. So I'd love to hear what you guys think.
Cool.
So
thanks for watching today, guys. We appreciate it. We love getting more viewers and more comments.
Go listen to us. Go listen to us on Spotify. If you don't want to see our happy smiley faces, go check us out on Spotify and just listen to our podcast, The Wolf Sister Reviews. Alrighty, stay shiny, folks.
Bye.